The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello, and thank you for joining Age-Friendly Caledon Conversations. This is a segment series, a series of videos in which we try to examine the services and supports available to older adults in the Caledon area. And today we're going to talk about volunteering, a very important factor. And our guest for the first half of this particular segment is Corinne Strong, who is the Executive Director of Volunteer MBC, Volunteer Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. Thank you very much for joining us,
Thank you
Corinne.
so much
nice
for
to have
having me. I really appreciate it.
Let me start with a notion that I often wonder, that if all the volunteers in the world decided one morning, today I'm going to stay home.
Go on strike.
I think our societies would come apart, would they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's, well, in many parts of the world, but in Ontario alone, 50% of the nonprofit charitable organizations are completely run by volunteers. So if you take the volunteers out of that equation, you can right away see the impact that that would have. Who would be, at the hospitals to welcome you, to guide you? Who would, support the Special Olympics and all those different elements that we don't necessarily think of? Oh yeah, that's volunteers that actually contribute. All these nonprofit organizations throughout Caledon rely heavily on volunteers. And I think during the pandemic, we saw obviously a real decrease. And one of the key components of that was because the senior population, was not comfortable volunteering anymore, or they couldn't volunteer anymore. They've been very reluctant to come back. And the seniors were the people that were giving the most hours. So if you're trying to, replace that with youth volunteering, they have a lot of different elements that they are focused on compared to the senior or the age-friendly population. So that's, the focus really has to be on how do we get them re-engaged in the community.
That's really an interesting observation too, because I notice with my own grandchildren and my children, the things they want to volunteer for are somewhat different from the type of thing that my wife and I want to do.
It's about what's in it for me, and fair enough. But for the age-friendly population, I think given our experience that we bring and the talent and the skills that we have to contribute, we really need those people to show up again and give back. And during the pandemic, other than the frontline volunteers, those were the volunteers that were still showing up. But some, we tried virtual volunteering, and we still do that a fair bit, and that's especially important throughout Caledon because we're such a rural community that sometimes, it's hard for seniors to get from A to B, and, transportation is an issue. So we're really focused on the roles that senior and the role that they can play in the community to still, make such a big contribution.
I don't think there would be any disagreement at all about the extreme importance of volunteerism. And you point out, as another guest did in another segment, the missing volunteers because of COVID.
Yeah.
People have not come back with the same kind of enthusiasm or in the same numbers at all that we had prior to the COVID experience.
And even within the nonprofit sector, there's a huge decline of staff that are responsible to manage the volunteers. So they lost their roles, and they're not coming back as much as what people had hoped. So the people that are responsible for assigning, the roles to the volunteers, for taking care of them, they're disappearing, or they disappeared during the pandemic, and slowly, organizations are understanding, we really need to invest in volunteerism. Volunteers are not free. They give their time, but in order to manage them effectively in the organization to make the biggest contribution, that's a huge part of all this, right?
So if there's going to be a repair, an improvement in our situation, I would imagine that Volunteer MBC, may I call it that?
Yes,
Volunteer
absolutely.
MBC? Volunteer MBC must be a crucial organization in making this happen. So I think you could describe for us, please, exactly what does Volunteer MBC do? What does it conceive of itself as doing, and what does it do?
So basically, we're a do-good matchmaker, if you will. We match volunteers through a database, a referral database, with about 200 nonprofit organizations across Peel region. Still Peel region, but Mississauga-Brampton will probably be, the MBC part will play a much bigger role after this dissolution of the region of Peel. However, so for us, it's about, offering that opportunity, that one-stop shop where we can connect volunteers to volunteer opportunities. So basically, the volunteers would create a profile on our website, and then opportunities that match their interests, that match their skills, will come back to them from nonprofit organizations. So, it prevents the, shopping all over the place to find the perfect role. They just basically come to you unless you see something directly on the website. However, if people aren't comfortable with the website, that's okay, because we have volunteer advisors that can support, the process as well. So that's one of the services. We also provide a lot of learning opportunities through the Learning Center, because for us, it's really, really important to have a meaningful contribution and a meaningful experience for the volunteers. So we train the volunteers, board directors, and we train nonprofit organizations leaders, the staff that really leads the volunteers in all aspects of the community and what it makes, for a good experience for the volunteers.
So if I may interrupt you for a second, this is what the Learning Center does.
That's what the Learning Center does.
Is that a specific location, or
No. It's all part of Volunteer MBC. Then the other component is that we do an awful lot of community outreach, and we go out and promote the organizations that across Caledon in this case, and promote their volunteer opportunities. Go out into the community to talk about the benefits of volunteering, which I'd love to touch on, and also there's another element, which is the recognition factor. So we have the Voskers, the annual Voskers, which is a huge celebration, a volunteer recognition event, where the organizations that engage the volunteers have an opportunity to really connect with the volunteers and celebrate them in a phenomenal way.
This is an in-person celebration.
This is, and it was at Cineplex this year for the first time. So we streamed it online as well, but also in person. So it was a really, really nice experience. So
let's walk through this then now for let's take someone like me, okay? I'm not by no means a junior senior, but let's suppose a reasonably able senior and a junior senior want to go out and do some volunteering, and presumably this would be volunteering with senior organizations.
No, not necessarily, because it can be with an organization, that has it has a youth focus, because you could be a mentor to the youth, bringing the skills and all the assets. A lot of people, the senior population, I think it's really about finding out what you love to do. As an age-friendly person myself, I really want to dedicate my time to something that's meaningful to me, But for some people, that could be playing the piano at a retirement home. It could be singing. That we have one volunteer opportunity for a hockey club right now that is looking for an anthem singer. So it can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be. There's always like Caledon Meals on Wheels and CCS. They're looking, obviously, Caledon Meals on Wheels, looking for drivers, for age-friendly visitors that can meet with seniors in the community. There's so many opportunities.
Well, so for me to do this, for anyone to do this, I would start at Age-Friendly Caledon or Volunteer MBC.
Go to
online,
our website,
right? And
create
then,
a profile.
And the profile is something I complete with you online.
Online, yeah.
And from there, you match me with possible opportunities.
You look for opportunities that you are interested in. So tons of opportunities will come back to you, and you explain, this is what I'm really looking for. But again, if you're not comfortable doing that online process, we can certainly do it over email, whatever is comfortable for the senior.
So you make it very possible for people to become volunteers.
Yeah.
But we've got about 2 minutes here for you to tell me, I know what, and I think I've said this myself, I would really like to volunteer, but do I have the time? Am I any good at it? Is this going to be the right thing for me? How do you address that? So tell people why they're good.
Absolutely. I feel very strongly, and at Volunteer MBC, we feel very strongly that everybody has a gift that they can bring, a talent that they can bring to really increase, the organization, but also the community, right? And for the volunteer, the benefits are so many. If you volunteer, the bottom line is your health is really, really impacted in a positive way. You do good, you feel good, right? And it's a proven fact that if you smoke 13 cigarettes a day, that's the equivalent to the loneliness factor. And the rate of mortality amongst people that volunteer, especially amongst the age-friendly community, if you volunteer 100 hours a year, your rate of mortality is significantly reduced, the age at which you pass on. So there are so many benefits. The sense of belonging throughout the pandemic, the social isolation has become so severe. So to combat that, you need to stay connected. You need to feel good about giving back, and get that sense of belonging to the community, to make it a caring community together. That's what our focus is.
And this makes you, this really can bring you out of yourself, bring you into the community, helping everybody else to age well. My goodness, it's really an absolutely valuable thing.
And we connect people to the causes that need them.
Karine, this has been most instructive. And again, I'll repeat, this is Karine Strong, who is the Executive Director of MBC, Volunteer MBC. So you can become a volunteer in Caledon, actually anywhere in what we still call Peel Region.
Yes.
And be very, very effective and also benefit yourself.
Absolutely.
This has been very
Huge
instructive.
Benefits
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And please go to our website and sign up. The community needs you so much.
There you have it. It's got a
This is you volunteering at Rogers TV. Directing TV is the cat's meow. This is you on location reporting on special events in your community. Way to go, Ace. This is you editing video at Rogers TV. Now you're cooking with gas. Why are you there when you can be here, creating TV at your fingertips? Hot diggity dog.
Welcome back. In our first half of this segment, we talked to Karine Strong, who from Volunteer MBC, who told us about the importance of volunteers, the urgency of recruiting volunteers again after the COVID pandemic. And now we're going to talk to a volunteer extraordinaire. Our guest is Carol Seglins, who has called Caledon home for, well, over 50 years, Carol?
Well over 50 years.
I'm going to come out on a limb here and confess that we've known each other for a very long time. Our children know one another. You are not only a former council member, you are a former mayor, a justice of the peace, you're a former teacher, a businesswoman, a person who gets things done, and also a volunteer of the first order. Now, this year, just recently, you were named Senior of the Year 2023 in Caledon, and this is an Ontario government created position, so it's a significant honor. Now, I'm going to carry on for one more second here because you're too modest to say all these things yourself. You're president of the Humber Valley Trail Association. You have contact with the Toronto Region Conservation Authority through that. You are a director at the Albion Bolton Historical Society, where you help manage historical findings and artifacts. You're a board member of the Caledon Senior Centre and a board member at Probus, Bolton Probus. You organize speaker series, book clubs, outings for seniors. I'm almost tired doing all that, but because I know you so well, you're also a very much family-loved member, loved member of your family. So there's obviously time to be a person and a volunteer and a busy person.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about the feeling you get as a volunteer. Why do you do this?
Actually, I just do them because I love the community. I love the people in it. I like to see that we have the best possible opportunities for our young people. And if I'm interested in it, I'm sure the other people in the community will be interested. So I do try to get young people involved. Now, if I take the position with the Humber Valley Trail, I want to see young people walking. It's fine for us white-haired guys, walking and keeping healthy, but it's important for them, for their future. So I'd like to see some of the schools and think about the idea of they could do some of their volunteer hours that they're required to do by the province, working on the trail or hiking on the trail. So I'm trying to get that organized, that some of the high schools in the area, that some of the youth will take this up as an initiative that they can do.
This is a fulfillment of their community service, hours of community service obligation.
And so if they come and they do it, not only are they achieving the hours that they need, but they learn how to, what the work is if you're, doing a trail, or what your good health is by walking a trail. So I want that initiative moving on to different schools.
It's clear that, of course, they're getting a lot out of it, but it's clear also that you're getting
Absolutely.
a lot out of it.
Like, I can't pull all the weeds on the trail system and or cut all of these things. So when there's work to be done, you share that. And when there's, let's go on another trail, that can happen too, just for exercise.
I'm going to go back to a memory that I have too, Carol, of when we were on a board together, both of us volunteering. It was the library board in Caledon, and we were trying to organize a meeting, and you brought out your schedule. At the time, you were a counselor in Caledon, and I remember looking at your schedule in the days before we all did it on an iPhone. You had a paper schedule, and it was just black with planned activities and commitments. You're an expert at finding the time to do things. And I think, of course, this makes you a special volunteer. Is it that hard? Is it to find the time? If you want to be a volunteer,
it's
tell
not
us how
that
you
hard.
manage that.
I mean, you get up in the morning, don't you aim to do something inspiring during the day? And if there's a 2-hour space, well, what else could you have done? Like, we've got a wonderful senior center now up and operational. And being on the board for that, I don't mind doing that because I'm really interested in us having as many opportunities for mainly seniors in that one. Let's make sure that that's up and operational and enjoyed by the community. And then you go to something like Probus, and like I'm on the committee that introduces different speakers.
This is the Bolton Probus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be on that board. I don't want to just sit there and listen to people. I'd rather try and make some connections so that we can get some speakers in. So working with a committee for that is important. And on top of that, many seniors come to the meeting and then they go out for outings together, or they do all kinds of things. So you try and maximize where your energy can help other people as well as yourself.
There's got to be a significant benefit to you as a volunteer, in fact, to all volunteers, let's broaden that, just in meeting other people.
Right.
I mean, you get out and you're doing things, but there are other people involved, right?
Right.
And then you bring that experience home with you, so you're energized beyond just the commitment of the time that you spent with other people.
And that's why it's important to meet with different types of groups, because you find new people and new inspiration in each different organization you go to. So
you're recommending that you don't have to be a volunteer of just one thing, you can volunteer for more than that.
Right.
So in terms of the actual, let's take the Humber Valley Trail Association that you were mentioning before. In terms of the time, assuming you had to commit an amount of time in a week, how much time does it take you?
You don't do it in the number of minutes that it takes you. You think about things as well as when you're not doing it, you're thinking and getting inspired about, well, is there another way we could do this? Or is there someone else, is there another trail group that would like to work together? So you are inspired by all of this different type of activity that you think about.
So when we talk about seniors living well, staying in place, of course, aging in place, and living well, part of living well is keeping the mind alive and thinking about the things you're going to do. So each time you're involved with you become involved with the activity, you bring that home with you, you have more thoughts, you have more ideas, you exchange with other people.
Right.
It's certainly a valuable kind of thing.
Well, it is. Like, if you look at Probus group for seniors, like, we've got book clubs. And so it gets you out. I mean, I'm only in 4 book clubs, right? So I've always got room to put another one in. Finding the time to read, then you make that time. And I don't have to sit and watch television a lot of the time because I'm trying to read for this book club or that book club.
The commitment keeps you inspired and keeps you moving.
And it keeps anybody. Like, it's not just what I do. It's encouraging other people to also keep well by volunteering and learning all the time.
We heard a very interesting statistic in the first half of this segment from Corrine Strong about how valuable volunteering is in preserving and promoting your own health if you're a senior. Yeah. And this accounts, of course, why you look so young, I'm sure. Being said.
I don't always look when I'm in the mirror and think, gee, you look about 10 years old, Carol. No, it's not that good. But
that's a morning senior activity, isn't it? Yes,
it is.
This has been really valuable. I know there's a phrase but there are people who make things happen, and people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what happened. You certainly belong to the first category of making it happen. You've shown to us just exactly how beneficial it can be to you yourself and to the community at large if you are a volunteer. Thank you very much for coming to us and bringing this information. Appreciate it.
Thank
Carol
you. It's been a
Seglins,
pleasure.
volunteer extraordinaire.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Please tune in to our additional age-friendly Caledon Conversation segments airing on Rogers TV and available on YouTube. For more information on these and other programs designed to help Caledon residents age well and in place, please reach out to Age Friendly Caledon. This will now appear on your screen. I'll read it to you anyway. You phone 311 to get in touch with Age Friendly Caledon. You can email adult55@caledon.ca or visit the website online at www.caledon.ca/adult55, where you can sign up for the monthly newsletter, e-newsletter, and keep yourself connected with news, events, the programs that are going on, and more. Thank you very much.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
From TIFF to Tubi, film critic Meg Shields scares me to death with genre goodness on the next episode of Cinema Scene.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every